Most sales gurus say the same thing. You have to build rapport on your sales calls. But when you scratch beneath the surface and they tell you actually how you build rapport, it's the same recycled basic bitch questions like, hey, how are you doing over there? How's the weather over there? And you just trying to get the prospect to like you. This does not help you build rapport. It does not help you build trust. All it does is actually hurt you because every other salesperson they've talked to heard the same basic advice, and you trigger the script in the prospect's mind that causes them to put their walls up. So in today's call, I'll go over the top 3 things that you need to know to actually build trust and rapport with your prospects that allowed me in 4 years to close over $8 million in sales. So let's dive in. Okay, number 1 is get into the conversation quickly and conversationally. Okay, now how do you do this? First and foremost, you do not pitty-foot around about like, hey, how's your day going? What the weather is like over there? You know, where are you calling out from? Because again, that's gonna cause people to be a bit more defensive. You just wanna get into the conversation. So how I'm typically going to do it is as soon as somebody hops on, I'm like, hey, it looks like you booked in about possibly getting help with this. Sound right? Perfect. Made it to the right spot. Just so we're on the same page, what made you want to go and book in today? Or, hey man, how can I help? I'm going to just ask a question about why they showed up on the call or how I can help. That's very open to just get them to talk about why they're actually here today. Again, we need to focus on the actual mission that they hopped onto the sales call in a way that's very open and can get them talking. Again, we want to come across like a human being. Now, oftentimes when people hop on with you, again, their guard might be up. So our biggest focus is we need to get their guard to lower. So things you can always interject in your calls are things like dad humor. Something that I do all the time is if you have little dumb jokes at the beginning of your calls, it causes people to laugh. And if people laugh, they let out a little bit of a dopamine release, which causes them to lower their guards. The biggest focus you need to be really paying attention to at the very beginning of the call is getting the focus off of us, getting the focus on the prospect with the lowest amount of resistance as possible. Okay. Once I do that, then I need to understand why are they here. That's really what the whole conversation is about. So once I get the focus off of me, I'm like, hey man, how can I help? Then they're gonna talk. I might probe on a few things, and then I'm just transitioning into, well, do you know exactly what type of help you're looking for? Once I understand what they're looking for, then I understand what they don't have, and that's gonna be the entire direction of the sales call. And again, if you are focusing on them and you're doing it in a way to where you're leading the conversation, this is what builds rapport and trust, not you trying to get them to like you. So number 2, you need to focus on what they need and ask them pointed questions to get them to expand on what they're actually there for. So when you are in a sales conversation, just understand a prospect shows up to the call because they have certain needs that aren't being fulfilled to the level of which they need it to be. So you need to be asking questions about the lack of that need or understanding what that need is. So if we take a look at this here, there's a couple different needs frameworks that I'm always going to keep in mind on my sales calls. So the 2 ones that I typically am going to keep in mind is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? And then Tony Robbins' 6 human needs framework, okay? Certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution. Typically, whatever it is you're selling, it is going to solve 2 to 3 of these needs typically. And depending on what the prospect focuses on, this is the need that they're looking to actually fulfill. So the biggest thing at the very beginning of the conversation, especially if we're looking to build rapport and trust, is believe it or not, we actually need to listen to our prospect and listen to the needs that they came onto the call to actually solve and fulfill. For example, let's say you are selling a biz op offer. Okay. Typically, the 2 needs that this fulfills is certainty and variety. Somebody makes more money, they have more time, they're more stable, they're more comfort, things are more predictable, or they have variety. Again, they're able to travel, able to do things that they're not able to do right now. Again, you will get some people who are more like love and connection. They want to be able to spend more time with their kids or something like that. But let's just say basically it's going to be certainty and variety. Okay. These are the 2 big needs. Now, depending on what somebody chooses to highlight, what they choose to talk about, that's what you need to, again, ask your questions around. Because let's say, hey, do you know what type of help you're looking for? Oh, well, I'm looking to go ahead and get my business started, okay? Or looking to get into real estate investing, whatever type of biz op you're doing. You're going to ask them, okay, what's coming up for you right now that would have you looking to start your own business? Oh, I want more money, I want more time, okay? So then, again, you're going to need to dig deeper, understand their situation, and then you're going to ask them, like, what's coming up for you that makes you feel like just with what you're currently doing, it's just not quite enough. You'd be needing more money, okay? So they're gonna tell you like, oh, just like right now, things are paycheck to paycheck or whatever it is. They have a lack of certainty. Or they can tell you it's like, oh, well, it's just I feel like stuck in one place, or I'm not able to travel, I'm not able to do the things that I want. They have a lack of variety. So you need to then ask your questions around the specifics of what they're currently missing. So this builds trust because they actually feel heard. You're focusing on the right things that are actually important to them. Oftentimes what breaks trust or breaks rapport and what gets prospects to say like, hey, why are you asking me all these questions? Because you're not asking them something that's actually important to them. So the biggest thing you need to do to make sure you're building more rapport and trust is be able to listen, identify what needs that they're looking to meet by hopping on this sales call and ask questions around that specifically, dig down deeper. That's what builds more of that trust and rapport, is focusing on what's important to them. Another big thing that you also need to focus on is you need to understand the difference between interesting and important information. So the difference between interesting information is information that is around the area, but doesn't actually push the call forward and it doesn't actually solve their problems. Important information is something that pushes the call forward and something that actually solves their problems or is talking about a problem you can solve. For example, if I sell somebody sales training, interesting information would be how the marketing is doing. Important information is how they're shitting the bed on their sales calls. So you need to make sure you're always focusing on important information, not interesting information, and just focus on things that you can actually solve. Again, this is going to build more trust and credibility because you're focusing on the right things. Okay, number 3, if something doesn't make sense, say something. This is a big thing that I see, especially when I'm reviewing younger people's calls. When they are talking to somebody that they perceive that has more value or they perceive that is like higher status than they are, things don't make sense. The prospect lies to them or they're not being as open as they should, but they don't say anything. They know they should say something, but then they don't. Now, understand what this does in a prospect's mind. Just put yourself in the prospect's shoes. If you don't really have to put much effort, if you can lie to somebody, okay, people are just going to do it. Naturally, people are going to take the easiest path. So if you allow this behavior to continue, again, they lose rapport, they lose trust for you because they know they're telling you bullshit, but you're not saying anything about it. On the other hand, if you hear something that doesn't make sense or you hear something that doesn't quite connect and you say something about it, okay, now they know they're actually, number one, talking to a real human being. You're in the fucking conversation. You're not just following a process, right? You asked a question, they didn't quite answer it, but you just move on, okay? No, don't do that. If they didn't answer it, or they didn't answer it the way that it really needed to be answered, you have to re-ask, loop back around, okay? So they know they're talking to a real human being. Number 2, this is especially important for people who are, again, like higher status. It gets you more respect from them, okay? So understand, most people who are higher status, make more money, all these type of things, they're very, very aware and they very easily can push people around. And if you fall into that trap of being another person they can be pushed around with, again, they're not gonna have the respect that you need to get them to change or get them to make a decision that's going to be able to take them to the next level. Like a comment that I got on my YouTube, last week, is somebody saying like, oh, like this wouldn't work with like higher level business people. And the fact of the matter is if you really think that, like you calling something out, if it doesn't make sense, it wouldn't work with higher level business people, then you're buying into their frame. And it tells me that you typically cannot sell those type of people besides you just trying to capitulate and win them over, okay? And you're never gonna sell at a very high level if you're just trying to capitulate and just win people over. Sales is amazing because you never have to lie to people. So sometimes you have to say hard truths or at least bring something to somebody's attention so it can be addressed. So the thing is, you have to have a strong frame, especially when you're dealing with other people who have a strong frame, and not fall into their frame. And if you don't know what a frame is, just understand like two people going into a conversation, they have a frame of how they view the world. And if you're going to be elite at sales and you're going to build rapport, build trust, you have to have the stronger frame. Now, again, when we're talking about having a stronger frame, it's not about being an asshole. The way I'd always think about it is I'm coming in like I'm somebody's big brother. Like I care about them, but I don't put up with their bullshit because I know they can do more. So if a prospect hops on and it doesn't make sense, or again, they're contradicting themselves, I'm at least going to say something. So oftentimes we hear these things on sales calls and we just don't say anything because we don't trust ourselves. But if you really need to build rapport and trust, again, typically people know when they're not making sense. So if you are allowing them to lie to you, you're gonna lose trust and you're gonna break rapport, okay? So on your calls, if something doesn't make sense, say something in a strategic way, right? Don't just go out and being an asshole, but you'll get more trust for it, okay? So hopefully this has helped. If you actually use this on your calls, I promise you, you'll build more rapport, you'll build more trust. And if you wanna see me actually do this on a sales call where I build trust, build rapport, and actually overcome objections, check out this call right here. But if not, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.